What is going on, comic fam? It is your boy, the Bearded Comic Bro, and I am joined by comic creators Brian Hawkins and Patrick Foreman. Welcome to the show.
Hey, what's up, man?
What's up,
Thanks
man?
for having us.
I'm so excited to have you both on. You guys are behind the series Black Cotton by Scout Comics, and I can't wait to get into it and talk about it. But before we do, I got to know what brought you into working on comics or putting this out as a comic. Like, where did this idea of, hey, I want to create comics come into play?
Go ahead, Brian. I'll let you start.
Yeah. So just to have the question right, like where did we start in comics or where did this comic start?
Where you started in comics. Let's say where you started in comics. We'll get the Black Cotton in a second then.
All right, cool. So my journey in comics officially kind of began like in 2012 with self-publishing, making a bunch of mistakes over and over again, refining, retooling.
Right.
I got into a lot of freelance work and freelance editing. I linked up with Mad Cave Studios and then Black Box. And so it kind of, between self-publishing and those great two publishing houses, it kind of has been a birthing process. And so here I am now. So yeah, that's my comic origin story.
And with me, to be honest, this is my first comic book. I've been a collector all my life. I used to just give you real quick. Back when I was working at Kmart in Virginia Beach, there was a comic book store behind Kmart. So every time I got paid, I would run over to the comic book store, buy 2 copies, save one, and read the other one. So I've been collecting comic books for since the early, 70s, the early 80s, because I was born in 74. So, that's just been my thing. And Brian, he'll tell you,
he's a collector.
I am still a true collector. I've just kind of stepped my game up. It's mostly CGC, Remark, signed stuff. I just got Assassins and Son, the collector's edition, CGC 9.8. I got that yesterday. Opened it up today. So I'm still a collector at heart.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you something, just a real small thing of how dedicated of a collector I am. I'm a retired Marine, but when I ran the Toys for Tots up in the greater Boston area back in 2007, I actually reached out to Marvel Comics because when they did their Black Edition Spider-Man for the 9/11 tribute, it was a black cover.
Yep.
If you go to the last page where they did a tribute to all the first responders, they actually messed up. They were supposed to have a Marine standing beside an Army person, but they put the rank up in both of the covers. And Marines, we don't have our rank in our cover. We have the Eagle, Globe, and Anchor. So it was an error. So I reached out to them and I said, hey, can you either redo it or do a special Toys for Tots poster for us? And they did the poster. I got John Watson. I was coordinating with him. He was over in, I think, London, and he was sending me the drawings. And, I got the number 3. He also did signed 250 lithographs.
Wow.
And I got the number 3. I didn't want to be greedy and get the number 1,
You're like, I'll take number 3. I don't want to go 1 or 2. I don't want to look too bad.
And here's a special treat that people are going to rehear this later on, because now that Black Cotton's coming out, I'm going to bring it to light. I'm actually in the photo. So if people have it, if they can show me that they have it, I'm going to give them a special Black Cotton edition.
Man, you just made all the collectors watching this is gonna go Google right now and say, I gotta find that
Oh man,
poster.
he is,
Oh,
he is the collector, I tell you.
that's
Yeah. And the
awesome.
picture is on our Instagram,
I need
actually, of the actual lithograph. So it's up there.
that's
It's
awesome.
hard to find though.
I'm not surprised now. Wow, that's so cool.
Good stuff.
I mean, I feel like we got to hop right into Black Cotton because, Brian, you sent me issue 1, and I mean, wow, powerful issue 1, and I have you both on, so I just want you. What is Black Cotton about?
Brian tells it the best.
So the law line and stuff, right, is, it's set in an alternate reality where the social order of white and black is reversed. And it hinges on an elitist family, the Cottons, who are a black family. Their son is a police officer, and he is involved in a shooting where he tragically shoots an unarmed white woman. And so from there, a lot of uproar, a lot of unraveling, social unrest, and the story, issue 1 through 6, is going to galvanize around that big event and what that means for this reality.
Yeah. Yep, I would say you're right, Patrick. He tells it perfectly. So that's the gist of the story. I mean, you're just getting into it. I mean, we're diving deep into it here now. With this being where you're talking about issues that are prevalent in what our society is dealing with right now. I mean, these are stuff that it's at the forefront of what's going on in our society. We saw that this past summer. We've seen that for many, many years. What was the idea behind the role reverse that you talked about right there at the beginning? What was that kind of process of, well, why flip the script?
I think I'll take this one, Brian. So the idea behind the role reverse is what we've seen in society is that you'll see a lot of movies where they're trying to get people to develop empathy. They're trying to give people the opportunity to see a situation and sort of develop empathy for the other people who were either, wrong during the movie or, had issues throughout the movie. And what we've seen is that it's hard for individuals to actually truly develop the empathy if they can't see themselves in that position. So what our comic book does, what Black Cotton does, is it creates a safe environment where other people can walk in another person's shoes. And by giving people that safe environment to do that, what it does is it also allows them in that moment to develop the questions. Oh, wow. And to also have clarity and understanding of what a person might have been thinking at that time, why they did what they did at that time. And then, just like me, you and Brian are talking right now, where we are more comfortable in having the conversation with each other. And that's what Black Cotton at the core is designed to do. What it is it's designed to allow you to walk in somebody else's shoes in a safe environment, have that dialogue with yourself, develop that understanding. And then, you know what? Now you're ready to go and be like, hey, I was reading Black Cotton. How did you feel when you saw this? Well, I felt this way. And guess what? You got dialogue happening, understanding happening, and also respect of each other happening at that same time.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, I think what you're saying, like you said, you have those when you can sit down and have those conversations, those dialogues. And I never looked at it from that perspective of, you see the, like you said, portrayals in the movies or something. this is something now that you're trying to flip that a little bit so you can bring that empathy along. Man, that's a powerful and brilliant move, I think, when you're writing this, something that is as just impactful of a story like this. So I think that's a very smart move.
Right. And the beauty about it is a lot of situations that people are going to see us touching on throughout the whole Black Cotton series. While they're reading it, they're going to start scratching their head and saying, you know what? I remember a situation like that. So now they're putting the real life situation that happened and what they know about it, and they're seeing the flip side, and they're seeing sort of a backstage, view of it. And then those questions are, well, how come they didn't see it this way? Or, oh, I see why they saw it this way. Or I see why people were upset. It brings, all of those types of things together.
Yeah, and you get to have that conversation and that dialogue then of getting to see, like, I didn't see it in this way, or I didn't see it in this light. And I think, like you said, if you can just start to have that conversation, I think that's where the gold is, for sure.
Yeah, it is.
So reading issue 1, I noticed that and maybe it's just because it was a preview issue, that it's drawn in black and white, like there isn't color in there. Is that, and I'm obviously assuming that's a very intentional move. You both are nodding your heads, grinning like, yeah. When you're talking about race, and you're talking about these issues of black and white, that then you're like, this is what it is. So obviously there's a story reason behind it. So what is that reason?
Yeah, go ahead, Brian.
So when we began to when we conceived the story, actually, we were thinking about how we want to bring it to life, how we want to present it. And, we both agreed that, it should be black and white with gray tones. To take the color out of a story that kind of revolves around, the idea of black and white. It's interesting because in the log line, it's set in an alternate reality where the social order of white and black is reversed, and it doesn't bring up the race of white and black. It's the social order, because those things are constructs. And so what we wanted to do was make sure that with the art there was no color involved, because it's not about color, it's about the ideology of white and black. And so that gives us an even playground, even field for the presentation of the reversal of roles, kind of, so that our perception isn't tainted with the idea of color.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense there, for sure. And also in reading it, I also noticed that the characters utilize the title Black Cotton often. They say the phrase Black Cotton. Is there a little insight behind that of why that's trending throughout the comic?
Yes. You want me to take it, Brian?
Take it away.
So I'm glad you noticed that, Greg. So Black Cotton is I guess you could say it is like in video games, how you have the main story, but then you have these side stories or side things that are put into the video game. Well, Black Cotton is the saying Black Cotton is sort of like that, because it is integral within that family. What it is it's rooted in their history. And so what you will see is there's a section in there where Elijah and his daughter, Kia, are in a heated discussion. And it seems as if Elijah is really going off on Kia. And when she's leaving, you can tell she's kind of down, because she just got this kind of lecture beat down.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end, you see that Elijah says Black Cotton to her. And what it was is his way of saying, forget everything that just happened. I still love you.
Mm.
And by him saying black kind to her, it fueled everything and reminded her everything about their history, everything about the love that he has for her, the love that the family has for each other. And you see her smile and she say black kind back to him. I love you too, Dad. You know? So, and then you see it with her and her mom, her and her brother. So that's where that whole black kind fuel, you know, saying comes from. And what we want, if we want black kind to go viral, we want people to actually associate black kind into their lives, that saying, so that they can also get back to, you know what, whatever we just went through together is all good, black kind. And guess what? Get back to the love. I still love you. Whatever we just went through, guess what? Black kind. And so, to be honest, the team, the black kind team, me and Brian, we say black kind morning, brother. You know, our whole team be like black kind. Scout comments, Brandon, James, Charles.
Yeah.
When we post, or if they, you know, post something, we say black kind and they say black kind. It is beautiful, man.
That's awesome. Well, where did you come? How did you land on the phrase black cotton then? For that being
That's Brian.
So this goes back to like how we linked up, and so we have a mutual friend named Luke Wright, who's an author speaker, and I used to work with him. He's a teacher, phenomenal teacher. I was a teacher at the time, and so he said, you know what, I have a friend named Patrick. He's really into comic books, et cetera, and he has this idea, and I want you guys to meet. And at the same time, he had said this to Patrick as well, and so we ended up like last year, like 2019,
No,
right?
this year, January.
2020, before everything happened.
Yeah.
And we linked up, you know, we met, and we were eating, and Patrick was like, well, look, so my idea is like the world is like totally reversed. Like everything is reversed. Even like the cotton was black. And I said, that's it. I stopped. Black cotton. That's it. That's the title right there. And so from that point, we just started talking, and we just built out the whole concept, and we decided like, okay, how do we present this world? And so we started to build this family, the Cotton family. And it just, you know, we spent the next 4 hours, you know, from the restaurant to his house, just building out the story. And we've just been building it ever since. And so that's how Black Cotton came to be, which then transcended into like a mindset. Like, you know, it's not just this comic, it's not just these characters, but it's a mindset, and the comic is embodying and is the vehicle for the mindset as well, which is why, you know, we say Black Cotton to each other, we type Black Cotton. So, you know, it's a comic, but it's a mindset being explored through the comic. So
yeah,
Black Cotton.
Black Cotton.
Man, that's, well, I love that. I love understanding where you came about with the title and that phrase, because that is such a powerful concept and idea of, you know, no matter what you're going through, you like, all right, hey, remember what we have a unifying bond on something. Remember that no matter what we've said, no matter how we're feeling, like, let's go back to, we at least have this, like we have this bond. And I think that's a beautiful concept. And I just love how you guys are integrating that into the book. So I'm so glad I asked, because I'm like, what's going on? And now I'm rereading it in my head right now. I'm going, oh, it makes so much more sense there. Okay.
And that's another reason why we were so excited that you reached out to us, because goes back to having the conversation. Mm-hmm. By having the conversation, it takes the comic book to a whole nother level. Just like you said, you replay it in your mind, and now it's almost like when you watch a movie and then you find something out and you go back and rewatch it,
Right.
And you start connecting all these dots, and you're like, oh snap.
Like, how did I miss that? And that makes
Right.
Yep. And I do that all the time with movies, so that makes complete sense. Well, let me ask this then. If someone's watching this interview and they're like, this sounds like a very heavy subject, and right now, and I like to read my comics as an escape. The comics are an escape for me. So I don't what would you say to someone to say that would respond that way, but also then what would you say to say, give it a try? Like, how would you respond to that of I want a comic as an escape, not something that we're dealing with in the real world?
So
you want to start, Brian?
Yeah, sure. So what I would say is that storytelling, and specifically in comics, has always been about the human condition.
Right.
It's about seeing ourselves, and even when we escape, we are still looking at a different version of who we could be or what we could be. Superman is just is us. Is just the highest form of us. And so while we kind of gravitate towards the idea of, let me escape into this world, there is no other world that we know except the one that's in our mind and the one that's presented to us. And so what this story does is very similar. It is rooted in the human condition, and what it offers you is a chance to look through someone else's eyes, the same way that you kind of look through Superman's or Batman's eyes. It's just that it tackles very much how Marvel used to do and still does social issues. That's what the X-Men is all about. And they're continued to, and with what Jonathan Hickman is doing with them now, it's heavy on social issues. And the comic book medium has done that so very well. And what Patrick and I are doing with Black Cotton is continuing in that tradition. It's just, they don't have superpowers. But what we have the opportunity to do as readers, like we do with all comic books, is be edified by it, and you can be entertained by it, because the drama and the action that will be in there will also entertain you, but it also will leave you feeling like, oh man, I got something from that.
Yeah.
So that would be my pitch.
Okay.
And here's what I would say, at the end of that is, one, it's a phenomenal story. To be honest, it's a phenomenal, entertaining story. And if people remember to speeches that they have been at, and think about the individuals who were given the speech, which ones do you remember the most and that you learn the most from? Is those who were able to actually tell a great story within their speech. And you probably remember that story now, and you repeat it to other people when you want them to learn something that you're trying to explain. So therefore, the same thing happens here in Black Cotton. You have basically a great, phenomenal story that in the end, when you finish reading it, you're like, you remember it, but you also learn something unknowingly because it was just that good. And that's what we present to the world. I mean, we have received some phenomenal ratings, and it's simply because, one, it's a great story. And at the end of that story, people are like, oh, wow. They start going back over in their mind, oh, wow, how did I feel when I saw that? And, oh, I understand it. Wow. And then guess what? They want more. And that's what we give to the world. We give the world a safe environment that's enjoyable. And at the end, guess what? Whether you want to or not, you learn something.
Yeah. I think that's great. Because you look back at movies, right? How many movies have you seen? Oh, well, that was a blast. That was, it was a popcorn filler movie. You're like, yeah, it was fun. But those movies that make you think, those are the ones that you go back and play through because of the great storytelling, like where they challenge you a little bit, but they also but they engage you in the right way too. So I think that's a brilliant way to come at the approach.
Absolutely. And, I'm thinking about indie comics. That's one thing that, we can cite what Marvel has done with social issues, but the platform of indie comics really engenders itself towards telling heartfelt, human conditioned stories, reaching out to like who we are as people, and tackling certain things that maybe the big two might not go directly into. Like I was just reading Crossover, and what he's doing in Crossover, that's very much it's through the vehicle of superheroes, but how he's using superheroes to tell this human story.
Yep.
And from any parable to any religious text to any philosophy, there's something about us that's drawn to ourselves. We want to know more about ourselves, and indie comics is the perfect place for that. And this is just is 100% an indie book. So it really gets me excited because of like what this book can do, could do, if embraced. And
Right.
it's not an indictment, it's not an attack on
Right.
any race or any culture. It honestly is a story about human beings, centered around a family, and you're going to feel yourself jumping back and forth between the Cottons and the Nightingales, and sometimes you're going to be taking the Cotton side, and sometimes you're going to be taking the Nightingale side. And what happens there is, you're jumping between those social orders of white and black but you're not even looking at the color. You're looking at their actions and ideology and the events and what is best for this human being to be doing right here. And what you're saying is, what should I be doing? And that's indie comics all the way.
I mean, it's the idea of, like you said, storytelling's been something that's been passed down from forever. Like, and great storytelling. You mentioned, Jesus was a storyteller. Like that's what he did. He didn't say this. He's told it in a parable because he understands, the idea of powerful stories gets people having dialogue and conversations. And I think that's really an important thing to hit home. Like you just said there, if we resonate with stories and good stories.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah.
So how far out do you have this series planned out? Is this ongoing in your head? Is this like, no, we know exactly how many issues were contained? Where are you taking Black Cotton?
Oh, it's like The Walking Dead, man. We try and take it as far as we can, go, to be honest.
Okay.
We already, the first volume 6, and we've already planned out the second volume 7 through 12, and then we're continuing to go on. And then we got other treats for people that they don't even see coming. We already, you know what? You're gonna get a special thing right here. I'm gonna put it out there, Brian. They won't see it or know about it, but we already got another one, in the works that we gonna give a spotlight to next year sometime. So definitely, here's what I'll say: they will meet him in issue number 3.
All right. You heard it here first, gang. You heard it here first.
Should I tell him the name, Brian?
No, don't.
Don't give the name.
No,
all right.
It's important to say that it's an open universe.
Yeah.
It's an open reality. And we want to explore that. We want to give readers that satisfaction at the end of the arc,
Yeah.
end of the volume, closure to that story. But very much like The Walking Dead, there's another story. So
Yeah.
Each volume has its story that takes you further into this reality and this world, and so you're going to meet new characters, and we have certain ideas and plans, like Patrick said, where to take these new characters. But it's a world, it's a reality, it's a universe, and all goes well. It does well. We definitely want to explore that. We had it planned.
That's what I like to hear, because it's like you said, you have the open world too. Like, you take this story, because I think you have it based in Virginia right now, right?
Right.
Like, you can take that same story and base it somewhere else in another part of the country, and it's different elements, different aspects of those stories. And like, so that's why when you're saying that it's not just a self-contained, like it's worldwide.
Right.
I think that's a awesome idea.
Thank you.
So it's coming out in February. You know when the FOC is? The final order cutoff?
Yes. The 20th of
December
this month.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you're watching this video, it's not too late. Order it from your shops now. Get that in for sure.
It's DEC. Yeah, the number is DEC 201650.
And I'll have all the links and stuff that they talk about in the description here below. So just click down below and follow through with that. So, well, I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but I want to give you just your space right now. If there's anything else that we haven't hit on Black Cotton that you want to talk about, or anything else that you guys have going on, just want to give you a moment of like kind of parting words of what you want to talk about.
Here's something that we didn't touch on that I think is very important for us to put out there, just so that people's juices continuously are flowing. But Brian, touch on the slavery question that we got.
Yeah. So the one thing, you hear the log line, set in an alternate reality where things are reversed. You can come to the idea of attack, indictment, et cetera, et cetera. But this Black Cotton reality universe, is not a reversal to where Black people are now in power, white people are not. Right. Black people were slave owners and white people were slaves. In this reality, it's important to understand that there was no slavery. In this reality, Africans were immigrants. Europeans were immigrants. And what ended up happening was through outmaneuvering, through business savvy, through bartering, through trade, Africans put themselves in a different position. And so what you end up with is oppression, but not through slavery. And at the end of the day, you have a case system somewhat formed. And so we're looking at this reality not through the lens of a complete flip to where one wasn't a slave and one was a slave, but we're looking at how the human condition lends itself honestly to oppression and to holding another group down. And I think that's important to understand. And this will actually play into some of the other stories that we will tell throughout this arc, but offshoot stories with the history of the Cotton family, et cetera, et cetera. But it's important to understand that we've taken that slavery out. And so Africans have their identity. They're African Americans with their identity. And the European Americans have their identity. It's not a complete switcheroo.
Right. And we thought that was very important. I'll end with this, note. We thought that was very important to do because what we've seen throughout conversations and what we've seen just throughout interactions and even in our own culture, what you will have is you will have sometimes people will hold on to one thing and they will use that as the justification of why today's situation is the way it is. So by us removing that, what we do is we challenge that thought process. We challenge, the conclusion that they came to. And what we place before them is this question. If we remove that out of our history, would America still be able to get to the same point that it is today without it ever being in our history? And I think throughout this whole Black Cotton story, and as we reveal this world to everybody, that they might, they might come to the conclusion that, you know what, with or without slavery in our history, America possibly could have gotten to this same point, in time, just with a different, it might have been a different, just like in our world, Blacks could have been on top, just, we don't know. But I think it's something that we needed to definitely remove just to also show that and bring that into question. Our book is a great book of what ifs.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
it really is. And I think the world you both have created, I think people, once they read it, they're going to say, I want to see where you're taking these characters. Because it is. I think what you said, the idea of, removing that one focal point that maybe hinges on something that you're like, no, let's really look at the human condition and who I think that's something that will capture people's attention, and it also won't be a hindrance to people. I think too. I think so. I'm excited to see where y'all are going, because usually I ask people like, oh, how far? You're like, oh, we got like the next issue or two done. You guys like, we're going. We're like, we know where we're going, so that's awesome.
Yeah.
So,
and just to add, a shout out to the creative team of
Yes.
Marco and Francisco and,
Yeah.
and Jerry. They have been instrumental in bringing this to life. Scout has been phenomenal with supporting and embracing us as part of the family, and it truly is a family effort. And we are definitely feeling the collaboration, and we're definitely feeling the love. So Black Cotton.
Black Cotton. So how did
Black
you?
Cotton.
Real quick, how did you bring this book to Scout? How'd you get linked up with Scout?
So when we were developing the story and we started art, Patrick and I, we had several conversations about like how we wanted to put this out there. And one thought we had, let's just go straight independent, self-pub, et cetera, et cetera. With some of the things I've done in the past and some of the connections I've had, I was fortunate to link up with the CEO, with Brendan. And, he's a phenomenal person, intelligent, smart writer himself, just all around great guy. And I said, you know what? Let me see where this will go. And I mentioned it to Patrick, and I'm like, what do you think about sending this over to Scout? And I told him about Brendan, and he was like, yeah, okay, let's go. So I sent it over to Brendan, and he shared it around to Charlie, to James, and they hit us back, and they were like, hey, we want you guys and Black Cotton to be a part of this family.
That's
awesome. And they used the word family, and that truly meant a lot. And it feels just like family.
Yeah.
Yeah, Scout really is. It's funny, like you name it, like some of the people, I'm like, yep, I have them. I've talked with them on my show. I've talked with him on my show. Like, and it is because they're family, and they're like, they want to support each other's work, and I think it's really cool. So I'm so glad that you guys found a home at Scout, because I think they're just doing great stuff. So and that's awesome. So
they really are.
where can people find you both online and stay connected and follow what you're doing?
Oh.
You first, Pat.
Well, you can find me on Instagram. Definitely just look up, Patrick D. Foreman. But we also have Black Kind Comic on Instagram. We got Black Kind Universe on Instagram. We got Black Kind Mindset on Instagram. We have a Facebook page, Black Kind Comic on Facebook. So definitely go there, subscribe, hit us up. Shoot. And if you Google my name, Patrick Foreman, and put "he's able" after it, I'll pop up again, because I also I'm an award-winning gospel artist. I won Independent Music Award for "He's Able" this year, 2020. So
Congratulations.
That's
I'm not gonna lie, as I was prepping for this interview, I was following Twitter and stuff. I'm like, should I bring up that he's an award-winning guy? So I'm glad you did, because I did. I'm like, I don't know, like, should I? Is that like, that's awesome.
Yeah, it truly was a great year, 2020. Just with everything, with Black Cotton, with the CD, and I'll just put this out there about the CD. It's a phenomenal CD with some phenomenal singers. I mean, David Scott, Tawan Gray, Richard Davis, Michael Armstead, some killer people on the album. But that's just, one thing that we all bring to the table. I mean, Brian, go ahead, run your list down of comments. He got like 3-4 comments out now. The man is a genius.
You're not lying, because I literally was watching him on a stream where he wasn't 2 days ago, wasn't even talking about Black Cotton, because he had 3 other books that he was like, so it was like, and he was like, we'll talk about Black Cotton. Like, and then, like, it's just like, that's like, so you're not wrong, Patrick.
I don't even know what to say. Look, I'm just a comic book writer. I don't have any awards, but no, seriously, it's a great, he and I are a great tag team on this. We definitely complement each other. He definitely keeps me on point, and we are checks and balances in this whole thing. And it's just been a great start, because we're just starting with this, and it's something that's very, very close to us and important, and as a creator-owned project that I really was thinking about it the other day. Like, there's an importance to this story that is, especially with how the world is now, how our country is now. And I'm hoping that, it is something that can bring people together to have that conversation. While at the same time, because it's this wonderful comic book medium, that we will enjoy it as well. That'll be edifying and entertaining. And I'm honored to be a part of it with Patrick. Each time we talk about it, I get reminded, that I'm a part of this process that hopefully will mean something to someone. So
how can they find you?
Oh, that was what I was supposed to be doing.
Listen, what you did was just as good. So, I mean, I'll have your links in the description below anyway, so it doesn't matter. But give the people what they want to know, how to find you.
I'm hanging around the Twitterverse at Brian L. Hawkins on IG, Brian_Lewis_IM, and Brian Hawkins Writes on Facebook. I float around there too. So yeah.
Well, man, I feel like we could be talking for hours, because this is you guys both. It's been phenomenal just having the chance to sit down and talk with you both.
Appreciate it.
So
same here.
I usually end my interviews by always saying, hopefully you can find some time to curl up, grab a book, and nerd out. But I feel like there's only one way that we can end this interview, and that's by saying
Black
Cotton.
Cotton.
Black Cotton.